guys, and welcome to Film Artsy, your #1 source for all things films and movies, and this has been a really exciting week if you are a fan of the DCEU, as there's been a lot of different things that have been suggested over the weekend during the DC Fandome event. But before we begin, huge shout out to our Marvel Monday winner. If you guys didn't know, every single Monday we ask a challenging Marvel related trivia question over on our community tab. If you want a chance to have your comment featured, make sure you guys are subscribed with notifications on and answer the question for a chance to have your comment featured right here on the channel. Alright, let's go ahead and jump into this. Now, we've already done video breakdowns covering everything we learned, kind of recapping it all. We've also done reactions to all the new trailers, but there's one really exciting thing that actually happened during a panel where they were discussing the future of the DC films, and we actually got some insight as to what they're going to do with their multiverse and their timelines moving forward, which is something that we've shown concern of in the past, as with a lot of these movies kind of doing a reboot or a fresh start, or, you know, retconning characters and whatnot. It was starting to be kind of confusing as to what direction we would see the DC universe take place in the future, and it looks like they actually have a plan to acknowledge this going forward and put things in a way that set up the future of the DC movies to have the most potential for creativity without necessarily having issues where one writer overlaps another writer and something gets retconned retroactively or some plot holes start to come up. And it is really interesting, especially because it sounds like from the way this panel went that they are planning on kind of pivoting and doing something different we've never seen in movies. Instead of the very standard one movie takes place after the other and just a linear timeline where the world builds like we see in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and what works in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we've seen the DCEU struggle a bit when they're trying to do different things. And when there's movies like the Joker movie, which existed in its own timeline pretty clearly, and it somewhat to an extent wouldn't work in the other timelines, it started to bring up this question as to how on earth would they be able to have all of these different franchises exist, especially with a new Batman movie coming out, and then there was the Ben Affleck Batman that was in these certain movies that showed up. So it was really getting a little confusing, but an official multiverse that can, to an extent, acknowledge each other whenever they decide that they want to cross over characters between different timelines. Now, this is something that's been done in the comics before in both Marvel and DC, and we wouldn't be too surprised to actually see this come up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the future. But as far as the DCEU goes, it's sounding like with this upcoming Flash movie, they are going to have a main multiverse that will include something that they're calling Earth Prime, which is the main continuity, which has Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, Jason Momoa's Aquaman, Ezra Miller's The Flash, and most likely Ben Affleck's Batman. But then there will be other branches to the timelines, like what we'll see in Robert Pattinson's Batman movie, which they're kind of referring to as this year 2 Batman, quote unquote. And then also there is another timeline that will have the Joker movie from last year also existing in the multiverse. So the plan with this is essentially to let the writers who have interesting and unique ideas write to their heart's content and build whatever world they want to build, and not necessarily have to cross over with other movies. And by having these base characters and these base stories told that are unique and carefully crafted, then when there is time for a crossover, they can do some sort of multiverse event and cross the characters over. This is something we really appreciate because we've seen it work in a sense with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, how when it was starting up, there was these self-contained stories that maybe had a nod here and there to the characters, but they were all, for the most part, these stories that made people like the characters on their own and then cross them over. Where with the DCEU, they were trying to play catch up right away and kind of had to integrate new characters into the plots, and it seemed like it was very confused in what direction they were wanting to go. So it's very reassuring to hear that they're now focusing on the individual stories more, and by allowing these worlds to build without having to try to write them into the story, or they have a change in an actor or someone departs from the series, at least the series can hold up and continue on, and they don't have to necessarily worry about the entire entire continuity falling apart and collapsing in on itself. Now, we actually saw the DC Multiverse do a little bit of a crossover with Crisis on Infinite Earths event on the Arrowverse, which is where we actually saw Ezra Miller make a small appearance on the special episode. That was really a big deal because it kind of confirmed there is a multiverse now. This is the first appearance we've seen of it. So this could lead to so many possibilities, not only with the existing DCEU and the upcoming movies, but also they kind of will have free reign to go back and revisit movies from the past and franchises from the past and other actors who've portrayed interesting characters in the past and incorporate them in some sort of crossover event in the future. And that's definitely something we're really excited about because it is something quite different and it is a very unique concept and it sounds really cool. But we wanted to know what you guys think of this possibility for the future of the DCEU. Let us know in the comments down below. Be sure to subscribe with notifications on for more videos like this. We'll see you all next time with a brand new video.
I'm about to.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, everybody. How you doing?
Hi.
See you guys.
Know anybody?